Good morning, my friends. This is Angie Stewart. We are happy to be here with the Conscious Living family. Welcome to our Sunday meeting. It's a blessing to be here in this beautiful sunny day. Miami day is common to be sunny and beautiful here. We are really blessed. So while our friends arrive and join us here, I would like to start doing a reading of this beautiful book, Our Daily Bread. And the lesson that I chose is lesson 125, the separation. So I will start doing the reading. If you guys are listening to me well, please just say, okay, I'm listening, everything is good. And I'm going to start. So the separation. But I tell you the truth. It is for your good that I'm going away. Jesus. It's in John 16:7. Such a statement from Jesus resounds in our innermost fibers. No one had the capacity to love greater than him. Yet, he was the first to recognize the importance of his departure in favor of his companions. What would have happened if Jesus had insisted on remaining? Probably the multitudes of earth would have accentuated their selfish tendencies, consolidating them. Because the divine friend had searched for Lazarus in the grave, no one else would be resigned to the separation by death. Because he had cared for and cleansed some lepers, no one in the future would accept the beneficial cooperation of annoying physical disturbances. The logical result would have been a general interruption in the evolutionary mechanism of Earth. It was important for the master to absent himself so that the personal effort of each individual could be visible in the divine plan of the world's project. Any other way, it would have contributed to the perpetuation of indolence of some and the selfishness of others. Under different aspects, the great hour of the evangelical family in our groups with affinity is repeated daily. How often will widowhood or orphanhood, suffering from being apart, perplexity, and pain surge as an elevated confidence for common good? Recall the following passage from the gospel. When separation causes you tears, because if death of the physical body is a renovation for the departed one, it is also a new life for those who remain. Very beautiful passage. Nothing happens by a chance. I randomly opened the book and very beautiful. This separation, beautiful lesson for us, especially in such a hard time that we are living with wars and so many tribulations. We have to have faith. And this is the title of our beautiful lecture of today. So before I go, let me just say hello. Hello, Mary. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Vivi. Hi, Vivi. How are you doing? Very good, everybody. O som parou de funcionar. Vivi, can you hear me? I believe everybody else can hear me. Check if it's your computer that has any troubles, okay? Very good, guys. So I would like to invite all of you now to do a quick prayer. Then we can bring our speaker of today. God, our Mother and Father, thank you so much for bringing us together in this beautiful morning, Please help us to elevate our thoughts, to connect with our guardian angels, to connect with the enlightened spirits that are already here with us, helping and guiding. We also would like to ask this beautiful, positive vibration to surround our dear friend of today, so she can benefit from it, she can feel good, strong, she can demonstrate to us the beautiful lectures that she studied and she wants to share with all of us in this morning. And I also would like to send these positive vibrations to our friends who didn't arrive yet, but they might be coming soon. Thank you so much, and so be it. Very good, my friends. Yes, I said she because we have a surprise. Look who is here. Hello, Andreia.
Good morning, Angie. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, only the last name matches the program. Sorry about that.
But it's equally good, and I'm sure everybody's super happy to have you here. I'm happy too because I haven't seen you in forever, so it's awesome.
Yep. I miss you guys. I miss everyone. I miss you, Angie, and everybody who's following along this morning. Thank you for having me back in our virtual home.
Thank you so much, and anything you need, I'm right here.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you. Good morning, good Sunday morning to you once again. Hope everybody can hear me well. If you don't, please also let me know. So today's topic, we decided to keep the original topic, have faith, as it was originally scheduled, because truth be told, we need to talk about this topic. We need to feel it. We need to see if we are in the development phases where we feel that our faith is lacking, is struggling, is yet developing. And we wanted to make sure that we honor today's topic. And this is the reason we kept it, especially because of what has been happening in our world this last few days. Today, I just want to make sure that we understand that we are not talking about politics in no way, shape, or form. Are we going to touch on the basic on the basic issues of politics and countries and leaders and rulers? We're not going to talk about that. Instead, we are going to resort to the greatest revolutionary of our soul. In here, we're talking about our role and model for humanity in Jesus, our master, our friend. And then, of course, we couldn't help but look back at the prophetic verses contained in the Gospel of Matthew, starting with chapter 24. And it is quite symbolic. It is quite well known among some people and also unknown to many others. And what we are going to do today is bring the original verses contained in Matthew, and we are going to try to align the teachings found in the book On the Way, the Truth, and the Light, lesson number 140. I'm going to ask my handy-dandy hostess with the mostest, Angie, to make sure that she writes down on the chat so that if you want to go back at home and read it, it is On the Way, the Truth, and the Light. It is a book psychographed by Chico Xavier and the Spirit Emmanuel, and it is lesson 140. And we are also going to try and link those teachings with the Gospel according to Spiritism, the Spirit's book, and finally Genesis, Miracles and Predictions according to Spiritism. So I'm going to start reading here because the verse is quite extensive. It's quite long. And of course, we're going to go back to it. So you don't need to be memorizing anything. We're going to be sure that we are actually bringing it to the context of today's world and see how we are able to keep the faith, to have faith during the arduous and dolorous and painful days that we face as humanity. So this is how it begins. It's called the destruction of the temple and the signs of the times. And it starts like this. Jesus left the temple and was walking away when his disciples came up to him to call his attention to the buildings. Do you see all these things? Asked Jesus. Truly, I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Everyone will be thrown down. As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. Tell us, they said, when will this happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? Look how significant this is. In Spiritism, if you're new to Spiritism, you might be hearing a lot of talk of time of transition or planet of trials and expiation, and how we are on the way to a world of regeneration. And so back then, Christ was already bringing us on lots of the verses brought on by the Gospels of Luke or Matthew, these sign of the end of the ages, or the signs of times, as many people have come to know. And so Jesus answered, watch out that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name claiming I am the Messiah, and I will deceive, and actually it will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you're not alarmed. Don't be afraid. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. And this is where the prophetic verses become truly beautiful, because he's talking about the signs of times and the end of a phase and the beginning of a new one by describing it as the beginning of birth pain. Now, I have never had children, but I do know many people that have had, and how painful it is, and how difficult it is, and how oftentimes it takes hours. And symbolically speaking, we can bring it here to the context of ages, but the end result, a beautiful baby arriving with Christ, is often been described by mothers as being completely worth it and completely magical and completely beautiful. So the prophetic verses contained in Matthew is very important for us to study and understand, aligned with Spiritism. As a matter of fact, Joanna de Angelis, in the book Empty Lives, that is coming out soon, she talks about the need for disciples nowadays, for the need for us to bridge Christianity with Spiritism, the pages, so that we can have the ability to face modern days with all of the hardships of a time of transition, with courage, with hope, and most of all, with faith, which is our topic today. So the verses continue on, and I'm not going to read all of it, but then basically he says, when you see standing in the holy place, the abomination that causes desolation, spoken through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then those left who are in Judea flee to the mountains. I just wanted to stop at this verse here. It is verse 15 of chapter 24 contained in Matthew. Let me read it again. So when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to invite you to dive into the prophetic verses contained in Matthew, because what we see happening today, when we see wars, when we see a lot of the pain that is assailing our world, and not talk about it on a Sunday morning would pretty much be turning a blind eye. Rather, the true Christians of modern days are called upon to face matters on actually with a brave heart, with a brave soul, not only standing firm during these times of tempest, of storms, but also leading a helping hand to his brothers and sisters in humanity so they too can stand tall and firm before the storms of our current world. So Judea and the mountains, as announced by Matthew here in the verse, is significant to us, and this is where we resort to the lesson contained in the Way, the Truth, and the Light, lesson 140, in which Jesus stated, I'm going to repeat it, let those who are in Judea flee to the hills or to the mountains, depending on which Bible version you look for. So here's what Emmanuel says, and I'm going to have to read it because it's very profound, significant, and the beauty of it expresses pretty much what we are trying to convey on this beautiful Sunday morning. Referring to the painful times that would mark the planetary renewal, remember we talked about in the verses of Matthew, that which symbolizes the birth, the painful birth process, so the planetary renewal, the Master advised those who are in Judea to flee to the hills, to seek safety at a higher place. This is what he's talking about. It's symbolic, as everything that Jesus brought us. It's very symbolic. And we need to pay attention to the subtleties around it, because nothing was pronounced out of his mouth that did not have very deep meaning for us 2,000 years later, as we are here today. The warning is profound because we should understand the word Judea to mean the spiritual region of all those who, due to their inner aspirations, due to their inner faith, they draw near to the Master for the supreme enlightenment. Look how Emmanuel talks about. He doesn't say that we are actually walking away. No, he says, draw near to the Master. This is the time, if we imagine a flood, if we imagine the fact that we have to seek shelter at a higher ground, it's basically saying that we should not draw near him, bring him closer, especially those that have already found the significance between knowing about religiousness and religions. So if we have a religion that speaks to our soul, and here we are going to use Spiritism because it is a Spiritist live, we have already understood the religiousness of it, where we seek the spiritual region within our soul. When we look for inner aspirations, it doesn't matter where we might find ourselves in. We are in the midst of a pandemic. Our Spiritist center is still closed. We can't physically go there. So the true disciple of Christ already understood that in order to draw near to him, one must look within. Close the doors in the intimacy of one's own room and look for him, meaning shut your eyes or keep them open if you want to, but make sure that you look within, because the kingdom of heaven is being developed inside the hearts of men and women who have come to understand these teachings and seek to make a proactive movement to develop within their own souls the aspect of this future life that awaits for all of us. And it's not a physical place. And this we have come to learn from the book Heaven and Hell by Allan Kardec. Here's another suggested reading material to bring basis on what we are bringing here of an understanding. He goes on to say, Emmanuel goes on to say, present day Earth is a powerful picture of this. Devastation and fighting are widespread. Deadly poisons are being injected into the masses by unconscionable politicians. The lowlands, and here he talks about lowlands in quotes, are covered by thick fog as if we can't see. Holy places are filled with abnormal darkness. People are attracted to the sinister light of the fires. The land is being fertilized with blood and tears for the sowing to come. It is a truly, truly actual picture that Emmanuel paints before us. If I was to read this to you, and you were to close your eyes, you would definitely be able to paint the landscape that Emmanuel is describing at the moment of crisis and transition that our planet is going through. He goes on to say, the time has come for those who live in Judea to flee to the hills of superior ideas. It is crucial for the disciples of the good to live on the spiritual heights and not forsake the lofty endeavor that the Lord exemplified while on the earth. There, they must solidify their position as faithful collaborators, meaning we are not to seek shelter at higher grounds of inner spirituality and be inactive. He's calling upon us to become collaborators, to be those that might guide others. If we look at someone and they're down the hill and they're suffering, and of course, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about the symbolic. If we see someone who is lacking in faith, who is lacking in all of the information contained in the truth of Spiritism, that we are to give a helping hand and help them see that which we have already come to see. Not believe, because today we believe, tomorrow we don't, but see, feel it in our hearts and know it to be true. So he says, there they must solidify their position as faith collaborators, invisible in peace and hope, convinced that once the men and women of perturbation, meaning those that are causing chaos, pain, those that have already, not yet already come in contact with the liberating truth that will actually take them to a world of regeneration, those that are creating chaos and pain, those that are bringing destruction and tears, they are gone. The sons and daughters of the Lord's work will sow joy once again and will rebuild the edifices of life. So here's basically what he's saying. When we are at this hill, at this mountaintop, so beautifully also stated in other places that we have come to know, such as also in Martin Luther King's own speech, when we are at the mountaintop, when we have sought this place that is safe in the spiritual regions of the most intimate place of our hearts and souls, and we become collaborators, those that are no longer aligned with these truths and teachings, they're going to be welcomed into other places. Here's where it's important to study about Spiritism and learn about the different phases of our planet. So we are in a world of trials and expiation, when there is a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of anguishes, a lot of famine, a lot of despair, a lot of injustices. Yet we are walking towards a world of regeneration. And while we are walking there, we can become true collaborators of Christ, assisting those that are open to this idea and that are open to make actual productive changes within their own hearts and souls so that they don't stay behind. What am I talking about? What are you talking about? I'm talking about those type of teachings contained in Spiritism, such as the immortality of the soul, about reincarnation. We're talking about some of the facts that have been brought to us, to our understanding, for we know why make an effort today so that we don't weep tomorrow. Basically, this is what this is. So when we look at Spiritism and we find information, as in Paul, for example, when he wrote the beautiful letters to the Romans, chapter 1, verse 17, and he talks about those that are just and must live by faith, we are going to see that he's talking about those that have been strengthened enough, that are already striving, observing, that are in an outward movement of religiousness towards assisting those that are walking side by side with him or her. This is what we are talking about today. Paul of Tarsus was also another beautiful teacher that we had that calls upon us to always live faithful, meaning full of faith, full of hope, where we are not left wavering between one scenario of the soul and another. If we are in the midst of a huge storm, the just, faithful servant is going to be the one to observe it even more and try to assist those that haven't found that type of unwavering, genuine faithfulness in our Father above or in Jesus himself. So here's where we're going to bring the content that we have in the Spirit's book. I just want to make sure that there are no questions here. I'm sure that, because I don't look at the video of myself, so if there are any questions, make sure that you throw it in there, and I can come back and come and take a look at what you guys may be saying right now. So this is where we go back to the Spirit's book, and we talk a little bit about what is happening in our world today. A war, right? And this is not new. We know about a lot of the battles that are happening, which actually starts oftentimes at home. It actually starts in the heart of men and women that are not observing the teachings that they have already come in contact with. I'm talking about you and I. Oftentimes in an explosive argument, we see relationships going up in flames. If we want to talk it this way, we see the bomb of discord being thrown wherever we might find an opportunity to do so because we are not vigilant. And then we see those that suffer the consequences of those bombs when they haven't sought the shelter that they so need in order to be saved, symbolically speaking, from the type of turmoil that men and women, unaware, ignorant, as in ignoring the law, men and women of society actually throw out. So we have to be very mindful of that. So here's where we have question 742 of the Spirit's book, in which Allan Kardec, under the law of destruction, this is one of the laws that is studied in the Spirit's book, and I really highly recommend that you join our Spirit's book discussion and study groups. And we have the study of the book Genesis on Sunday mornings. On Wednesdays, we have a class that we talk openly about all of the matters that we see assailing our world today. But Allan Kardec, he was very guided and he was very inspired by the questions that he brought to the spirits, especially the ones relating to war. He asked, what is the cause that leads humankind to war? Look at the question that he poses, as if foreseeing that eventually there would be very painful. And we did. We know of the wars that have already made our planet, our world, men and women's heart bleed when we're not talking about physical death here, but we see the pain that it causes generation to come. He asks that question, what is the cause that leads humankind to war? And the benevolent spirits, the Spirit of truth, led on by the Spirit of truth, answered, the predominance of the animal nature of the spiritual, the satisfaction of their passions. In the state of barbarity, nations only know the right of the strongest, and that is why war is normal for them, not for us. If it feels to you that it's not normal, that it's not right, that there is no reason why we should be going through a war, it already talks a lot to your spiritual progress. As humans evolve, war will become less frequent since they will avoid its causes. And when it does become necessary, they will know how to make it more humane. Look at what he's talking about. There comes a time where it is necessary, but he talks about a condition where it's more humane. Then Allan Kardec presses on. Will war someday disappear from the earth? And this is a dream all of us have, right? I mean, if you are in Brazil at 1:30 p.m., which is where I am right now, or in the United States Eastern Time, and it's 11:30 a.m., or if you're in the Pacific Time, and you're watching a presentation that is with the Spirit is teaching, or any other philosophy that you may have embraced, it already talks about the fact that all of us dream of a world where there is no war, where there is no suffering, where there is no pain. And the benevolent spirits answer, yes, when men and women understand justice and practice God's law, then all nations will live as brothers and sisters. But then Allan Kardec comes and he keeps pressing. He says, what has been the goal of providence in making war necessary. So they answered, freedom and progress. If war is meant to bring freedom, why is it that it has usually had subjugation and objective as a result? Temporary subjugation enables cultures to evolve more quickly. And so I just want to jump over here, because when Allan Kardec brings destructive calamities in the Spirit's book on question 737, he asks, what is the purpose? Why is it that God inflicts humankind with destructive calamities? And this is a very powerful question that Allan Kardec poses, and an even more powerful answer that the spirits bring us. What purpose, for what purpose does God inflict humankind with destructive calamities? And the answer, to impel them to progress more quickly. He goes on, the spirits go on to explain to Allan Kardec what they mean, but then they say, hardships are often necessary in order to make things arrive at a better order more quickly, and to accomplish in a few years what would otherwise require many centuries. All of what is happening is very powerful, is very painful indeed, but look how the world is responding. Look how many people have thought that there is no love in this world. And what we are seeing is a reflection of the opposite. People coming together in different colors, of different nations, of different flags, waving, talking about the need to end war, to be more loving, to be more tolerant, that there is no reason for this to be happening in 2022. My friends, this is very powerful. It's as if faith, the seed that is implanted in our heart, the soil is ready. If it is raining drops of tears, drops of blood, it's so that it can flourish. It's so that it can be proactive, because faith that is dead is not productive. It doesn't cause an impact. The opposite is quite different. We have the ability to speak up with honor, with love, with justice, make a louder boom in the way that we are. It is up to you and I to modify the inner landscapes of our souls so that it reflects out into the world. He goes on to ask, couldn't God employ other methods instead of destructive calamities for improving humankind? And the spirits answer, yes, they are employed every day through the knowledge of good and evil. God has given each one of you the means of progressing. However, we don't take advantage of it. So it is necessary to afflict us within our own pride to make us known about our own weaknesses. Look how interesting this is. In Spiritism, in Portuguese it rhymes, in English it does not, but it says, if you don't learn through love, you learn through pain. It is a harsh, bitter medicine that often is necessary for us to wake up to the fact that we have all of it if we just knew how to employ it. He goes on to say, but the moral person, the good one, succumb to the calamities along with the wicked, along with the evil, along with the injustice. Is this a just matter? Is this just? Allan Kardec asks. And the benevolent spirits come back and answer. Throughout life, humans relate everything to their body, but after death, they think differently. As we have already stated, the life of the body is almost nothing, which is not to diminish the pain that we see happening in the world. Let's be mindful of that. The spirits continue. A century in your world is but a flash in eternity. The sufferings that last a few of your months or days are nothing and are only a lesson that will serve you in the future. Spirits who have pre-existed and have survived everything else comprise the real world. Here he makes a reference to look at question 85. So I'm going to encourage you to do that in your own reflections and study. They are the children of God and the objects of divine kingdoms. Bodies are no more than disguises behind which they make their appearance in the world. In the great calamities, that decimate humankind, moral persons who succumb are like an army, which during war sees that its uniforms have become tattered, worn out, or lost. The general is more concerned for his soldier than their uniforms. I'm going to go and jump question to question 739, in which Allan Kardec asks, are destructive calamities useful from a physical point of view, notwithstanding the hardships that they cause? And the spirits answer, and they're very clear. Yes, they sometimes modify the conditions of a region, but the good that results from them is usually only felt by future generations. So, one more question that we can ask. Couldn't calamities also be moral trials for humankind by exposing humans to the most afflictive needs? Look at the providential question that Allan Kardec poses to the benevolent spirits. Couldn't calamities, destructions, what we see happening, be more moral trials for humankind by exposing humans to the most afflictive needs? Calamities are trials that furnish humans with an opportunity to exert their intelligence and to demonstrate their patience and resignation before the will of God. At the same time, calamities enable them to develop the sentiment of self-denial, of self-detachment, and to love for their neighbors if they're not dominated by selfishness. Are we dominated by selfishness? Do we feel love for our neighbors near and far? When we look at the images in our television, what do we do? What motivates us to wish to make a change? What do we teach the future generations to come about what is happening in our world today so they can become men and women of the good for society, regardless of the flag that they wave up in the air? What are we teaching them? What do we do? Do we seek the fundraisers for crisis relief that we have with Red Crosses? If we are in Florida and a hurricane actually destroys an area, are we motivated to go and assist, or do we watch the scenes on the television and the images that the news bring and think, oh, poor person, poor human being? Are we actually dead in our feelings and sentiments? Are we actually asleep with the feelings that should motivate us to become better for our neighbors? This is a moment of reflection for all of us. That is the truth. What we feel within. What do we want to do with that we are feeling right now? This is why the Spirit's book is so important for our reflections today. And then Allan Kardec asks, can we avert the calamities that afflict us? Can we avert them? Can we deviate from them? Yes, in part, but not as a generally opposed. Many calamities are the consequences of your own improvidence. So when we point a finger and we blame, they are addressing humanity as a whole. Nobody is actually safe from thinking about their own conduct, about their own actions, about the way they feel, they think, they act. Nobody. We are all being called upon yet again. It started really bad in 2020 with a pandemic that came to show us that it didn't matter the flags, the berries, and we were all on the same boat, so to speak. Planet Earth. We are still on the same boat. Nothing that happens from afar will lack impact on us in the near future. We are all members of the same family. We are all brothers and sisters in God our Father above. We all should tend for one another. The responsibility for each other should be present at all times. It shouldn't be the effect of fireflies, that the light goes on and off, on and off. It should be like a sun constantly shining. And if it isn't yet, we need to think about why it isn't. Allan Kardec says, therefore, what will humankind not accomplish for their material well-being when they know how to make use of the resources of their intelligence, and when caring for their own self-preservation, and they know how to make it an ally with the sentiment of true charity for their fellow beings? What will we be able to do when we align the two wings of progress, moral and intellect? Can we imagine how high we can soar in the flights that are to become of our souls? The study is very significant, and it is calling us to put forth our faith, to have faith in each other, to have faith in oneself, to put forth this movement as to touch others who have been so impacted by what is happening in the world today. They feel one more blow and I just can't go on. One more strike and I just can't feel like I can face yet another movement of pain. But then we go back to Genesis and we started with the prophetic verses of Matthew. Jesus has been warning us, has been talking to us. His voice has been echoing through the ages, reaching us today with the noble illuminative pages of Spiritism, telling us the time has arrived. And I joke sometimes that we reincarnated with the VIP ticket to sit in the front row of planetary transition, and we have two choices. We can sit back, relax, and watch it all developing in front of us, or we can become proactive, key players in the landscape that is modifying right before our eyes. In a sense, inheriting the earth as we see in the Beatitudes brought by Christ over 2,000 years ago. So I'm going to leave you with a final thought contained in the last chapter of Genesis, Miracles and Predictions According to Spiritism. When Allan Kardec brought us, the time set by God has come, we are told everywhere, in which great events will occur for the regeneration of humankind. In what sense must these prophetic words be understood? For disbelievers, they hold no importance. To them, they are the only expression of a childish, unfolded belief. For the majority of believers, they contain something mystical, supernatural, that seems to be the precursor of the upheaval of the laws of nature. Both interpretations are wrong. However, the former, because it implies a denial of providence, the latter, because such words do not declare the disruption of nature's law, but rather the fulfillment. Thus stated, we will say that our globe, our planet, our home, like everything else, is subject to the law of progress. It progresses physically through the transformation of the elements that compose it, and morally through the purification of the incarnates and the discarnate spirits that populate it. Both of the areas of progress accompany each other and march in parallel, because the perfecting of the habitation is keeping with the perfecting of the inhabitants. The time, however, will not entail a partial change or a renewal limited to a certain area, people, or race. It is a universal movement that will operate in the sense of moral progress. He says, a change that is as radical as the one being prepared cannot be accomplished without commotion. And Emmanuel, in a book entitled Emmanuel, not yet translated, talks about this moment of commotion as that of a rebuild of a home. When we want to make certain type of improvement in a home, it is never done without dust or noises or chaotic situation or hardship or even labors. All of it are needed in the time of actually making movements of changes. So Allan Kardec continues, from this conflict, temporary disturbances will inevitably arise until the ground is leveled. Equilibrium is reestablished. Consequently, it is from the struggle of ideas that the foretold grave events will emerge, and not from the pure physical cataclysm or catastrophes or destructions that we see happening. Cataclysms, widespread cataclysms, are the result of the Earth's transformation. However, it is no longer the entrails of the planet that are being stirred up, but that of the humankind. Our hearts, tectonic plates moving, making changes, switching from one thought to another. It is this moment of transformation that the Times is calling each one of us to observe and reflect upon. And I want to finish by leaving the comment here by Allan Kardec. We are in God as God is in us. This is in the very beginning of the book Genesis, called Providence. And the reason we state have faith, because it doesn't matter what is happening in the world. If we have already looked to seek shelter at higher grounds, inner spiritual refuge, where we are with the Master, Allan Kardec comes and reminds us, we are in God just as God is in us, according to what Christ said. To extend kindness over all creatures, God does not have to look down from the heights of immensity. To be heard by God, our prayers do not have to cross through the spaces, nor do they have to be spoken with a resounding voice, since God is constantly at our side, and our thoughts, our anguishes, our tears, our fears, our feelings resound within God as what he talks about, the sound of bell, which actually makes all the molecules of the surrounding of the air vibrate. So never lose hope and never lose faith, for God sees all and it is with us. Harmony is what reigns in the universe because his laws were created by him or it, however we want to see or imagine God, the supreme intelligence, creator of all things, including his unchangeable divine laws. And Jesus, dear friends, is with us at all times. He is our pastor and we are his flock. So have faith. Don't let it ever fall asleep within or weaken. Make it productive, make it movable. Be sure to encourage anyone that you encounter at this moment that is so painful, that is so dolorous, that is so filled with difficulties. For tomorrow promises a new day, and with it, Spiritism brings us a new dawn for humanity. It doesn't matter where we might find ourselves in. With that, I'm going to be calling our hostess with the mostest so she can take over our study and finalize with our prayer.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Beautiful, beautiful lecture. I love the way that you mixed up all the teachings, the books, and such an important subject that we are living right now. It's so much pain, and some of us resign within God and trying to do our best. But what can we say? First of all, everybody, please, that's the moment that you can write your comments and you can write your questions, and Andrea will be answering it. So my first question is, what can we say to people that are angry right now? They might not have our faith, our strength, and they are very angry, and they lost hope in humanity. What can we say to help them to calm down and to come back?
Wow, this is such a hard question. I'm so glad that Suzanne is connected so she can she can offer us an answer right now. But to lose hope in humanity is to lose hope in oneself, right? So while we're looking out at other people and feeling this way, it is the time that we actually look within ourselves and try to find she's like laughing out loud over there in the comment. I like to tell people that as spiritists, and if you have a bit of spirituality and you might even consider the aspect of reincarnation, I always like to compare humanity or people to a rose bush, right? If you ever look at a rose bush, they are all blossoming at different phases, right? They don't blossom all at once. Some of them are still very closed. Others are in full bloom with their perfume and all its beauty. Some of them are still opening. And so this is us. We are all blossoming in different stages. We are all progressing different stages of humanity. If we are to develop even a compassionate eye at those that are causing so much chaos and pain, they are the ones that are ill themselves. And I'm not going to lie to you, Angie, that I felt a bit of anger this last week at seeing some of the images, and even avoided taking a look at social media because it's hard. I mean, it's a real hard thing to look at. Some of the things that we see happening in our world today. This is why in the beginning I talked about not talking about politics or leaders of the world. This is not what our world was about. And of course, we can't not think about it. But with Spiritism, it is looking at a way where we might seek those that have come before us, such as Francis of Assisi, who talked about the need to become instruments of peace ourselves, right? If we can depend, if we can count, if we can't hold other people accountable for their actions, me, myself, Andreia, right? Then what is it that I'm doing? What do I have control of? And that's myself. That's my feelings. That's in digesting that what is happening. And, shake off the dust. See, it is where I can be productive to help out the pain that I see in the world. So I became quite annoying this last week, posting on my stories, the fun reliefs by the Red Cross or the ONU posts in Portuguese and in English, because sometimes people don't know where to start and they feel like, what can I do? There are things that we can do, right? Anger is not going to solve anything. Being angry at leaders or people, it's not going to help. What's going to help is a proactive stance from each one of us. It's what we are teaching our kids. It's what we are posting on social media. Do we want to promote peace? Do we want to promote instruction, guidance? Why not post such questions that Allan Kardec brought, the benevolent spirits, into social media to try to help people understand what is happening? I saw so many speakers, so many Brazilian speakers posting lectures from other people talking about peace, talking about war, talking about the trials, the expiations that are coming about, talking about if I can't change the world out there, at least I can change the landscapes of what is happening in my own house right now, right? So there are things that we can do. We are not helpless and we are not hopeless. And that's one of the mistakes that people make, is thinking that there is too much negative in the world, that there is too much evil in the world. There is a lot of beauty also. The most beautiful thing that we see coming out of what we see happening this last week is the way people are going out in the streets and speaking for each other. It's like something that I can't stand, Angie, is people that are, unkind to animals, kids, or the elderly. And when I see it, I speak up, and I'm quite obnoxious. It's not about being obnoxious, but doing something. If you see something that is unjust, what do you do to bring about this feeling of justice, right?
Yeah. I see here a comment from Susanna. She's actually saying, wars are becoming unacceptable to humanity, showing signs of progress, although it's still present. And very much connected with what you said.
Mm-hmm.
She also says, let's make a peace with weaving so peace can be established. Exactly like you said. We have to be the first ones to do something positive, to do something good. If we are just using social media to instigate hatred, we are fomenting hatred, and that's not what we want. There are lots of thank yous and thank yous and thank yous. And we also have Carolina Marquez saying, what can we think when we find ourselves in fear for us, for our family, and for the humanity? How can Spiritism guide us at this moment?
It's I see Carolina's question, and I see Susanna's answer, in which she talks about fear being a normal condition right now and a very necessary human feeling, and I agree. But then she poses a new question: what are we exactly afraid of, right? It is important to meditate about the source of fear. Spirits are indestructible. And it is a very powerful answer that Susanna gives, because it goes on. are we really taking advantage of the information that we are being given by the spirits about our immortality, about the moment that we are living? And if I'm not sure if Carolina is going to feel consoled by this or not, but I, for one, feel that we have a huge advantage to be reincarnated at a time of transition with a spiritist philosophy, body of knowledge in our hands, where we actually can utilize all of this to try to find a little bit of solace, a lot of better consolation, calmness within. All of the tools like prayer, understanding how prayer actually works. Maybe this, maybe Susanna can do a beautiful study about how prayer actually works and why we should pray and what comes from it. The energies that are in movement when we pray, what is created around us with this barrier that actually strengthens us and makes us feel like we are truly protected. And I just wanted to bring here, if you're watching at home, verse contained in John, verse 16, chapter 16, verse 33, I think, in which Jesus came to say that he didn't come to bring us peace, right? And he talked about how in our world we would have, we would have tribulations, but not to fear, that he had won, in the world, in the sense of it. I don't remember the word of it. Maybe Susanna, who's like looking at her, there it is. I'm not sure if she's going to find it. You know what, Angie? Keep talking. I'm going to find it right now because I want to pose in here. 16, 33. There we go.
Good. So let's so Mary here. Mary just adds anger being negative feeling. We only add more animosity to it all. And it's true. It's true. We cannot feed anger. We have to feed peace. And sometimes we are angry. So exactly as you mentioned, Andreia, it's the prayer is such a balsam. It's such a wonderful way to calm down. And I have been seeing lots and lots of people in social media, different spiritist centers, different churches, Buddhist centers, all asking people to pray together. And this is such a wonderful way to help ourselves and help others to be united, to help to calm down this negativity.
Yeah, there it is. Marcelo actually whispered to me, it was John 16:33, in which he says, I have told you these things so that in me you have peace, right? You may have peace. You might find this comfort in Jesus, in his teachings, in his lessons, in his examples. In this world, you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world, and so can you. So take heart, Caroline. Don't be afraid. Don't be fearful. If you do fear, like Susanna said, take note, what is it that is making you afraid right now, right? And if we find ourselves in a position where we can actually bring comfort, bring optimism at all time, let us do it. Not a fake, what's a Pollyanna-like feeling, but based on reason, which is what Spiritism brings us. Let us bring this reflection so that people can find their hope, so people can find their faith, so they can keep it, so they can hold on to it, and so that they can carry on, because there will be hard times, but we have overcome so much. There has been so many beautiful lessons learned in the past. Have faith in oneself also is so important. If you make a mistake, have hope and faith. Don't lose it. Don't lose it. These are all what Y𝐨𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻 call learning experiences. And we have to learn to look at oneself with a lot of love as well, so that we can continue and carry on.
Exactly. We are like children.
But
we cry a little bit and stand up and go on.
That's it.
We have to be. So, my friends, any more questions? Our time is really closing. But thank you so much, Andreia. I think it was a great lecture to the perfect time that we are going through, and so much pain. And we were already going through difficulties due to COVID. It's getting better now when this war start happening and affecting everybody. So it's important that we keep our faith, and we get strength, and lectures like this help us to boost our inner energy so we can like, no, things will get better. Things are not totally uncontrollable, so things will get better, but we have to contribute to this improvement from ourselves
That's
to
right.
you, to everybody, and then things will get better soon. So let's pray together that things will be better much quicker. So
Indeed.
I see lots of
Mhm.
thank yous here. And we are finalizing now, Andrea. I would like to ask you if you can do our final prayer to complete the Have Faith lesson.
Sure, let's do it. Let's keep this moment where we are feeling the very, very presence of the good spirits, so present indeed that it's as if we are able to feel their hands upon our shoulders, caressing our heads, whispering in our ears that they're with us, that we shouldn't be afraid, that we were prepared prior to reincarnating, that we would be dressed accordingly, symbolically speaking, for all the battles of this world, that we are soldiers of the new era, the soldiers of love and peace. Some are stronger than others, but it doesn't talk about the quality and the ability to become collaborators in the assistance of those so-called spiritual civilians that are lacking in a place to seek refuge, a place to seek solace and comfort. That we were sent here at a planet of trials and expiations not only to evolve and progress, but also to assist, to become assistant, emergency assistant in the hands of benevolent spirits who look for us to be able to modify the very landscape, physical and spiritual landscape of our planet. And though at times we may ask and question, being so small, am I able to cause such an impact? We can hear them say, yes, you can. For love and kindness makes a larger boom, a larger noise in the world than that of pain and anguish. That we have the ability to sow love, to sow compassion, fraternity, and understanding, because it is at the very basis of what we need ourselves. So that we try to apply the teaching of the Master to love one neighbors as oneself. And to remember that it comes down to that. On this note, dear Jesus, give us the strength, the courage to always remember this, to remember your teaching, that we should love one another as you have loved us, leaving that as the very last teaching, and that we should do that in remembrance of you. Keep us connected through the fraternal ties of love, of solidarity, of tolerance. Let us look at each other as brothers and sisters in different phases of our humanity, of our spiritual progress. And bless and console all of the bleeding hearts of the world today. Regardless of where they might find themselves in, please utilize our vibrations, especially for our brothers and sisters in the Ukraine. Let our hearts beat in their colors today, remembering that we are not talking about politics, but about humanity as a whole. If we have anything that is good, utilize it today, dear Jesus, to use it as comforting handkerchiefs where you're able to dry their tears, to remind them that they're not alone, that we see, we feel their pain, and that we too will honor the commitment to fulfill the commitment in the spirit world to try and lead others to your words, to your teachings, and to renew our commitment to also progress and grow and develop the inner virtues of our own souls. We know that only by practicing charity we will become those true sons that radiate the feelings of love and charity at all times. Thank you so much for this morning, for this family, for the conscious living. So be it.
So be it. Thank you so much, Andreia. Beautiful, beautiful. And I'm sure everybody is very, very thankful for this great lecture in this very hard time. See you soon, my friend.
Bye, guys. I miss you guys. Bye.
Bye. So, my friends, I just wanted to remind you all to please go to Conscious Living website, Facebook page, so you can check out the studies. We have studies groups, and you can continue your improvement and your knowledge of Spiritism throughout the live studies that happen throughout the week. So don't miss this opportunity, okay? So thank you so much for being here with us. Have a wonderful Sunday and a great week, and see you all soon. Bye-bye. Thank you all.